Hello, my name's Dan Harris, and I'm the founder and CEO of Neurodiversity in Business. Myself and my colleague Mark will introduce himself in a second. We're absolutely delighted to be here today, presenting to you as part of the NeuroEmergence Conference. And well done to the conference organisers. This is exactly the kind of thing that we love to see. It's great that you're doing it in Holland. Maybe we'll do it globally next year. And I'm the CEO of Neurodiversity in Business. Neurodiversity in Business is a charity which was recently launched, which is enabling and supporting the change that we all want to see across society, which is the building of neuro-inclusive workplaces and also supporting neurodivergent talent into the workplace. So this is Neurodiversity Pride Day. So we've got a very happy and upbeat message for you. But before we get onto that, I'll pass you on to my dear colleague Mark, who is the Chief Strategy Officer and also the Chief Partnership Officer of Neurodiversity in Business.
Hello. So as Dan said, my name is Mark Peterson. So helping to map out the ecosystem that supports businesses adopting neurodivergent practices. As many of you know, some businesses are flagships in this space. They've created those inclusive practices that include neurodivergence, and some companies are just starting on this journey. So the aim of NiB is very much to support those companies wherever they are in that journey, whatever sector they are in, and to find the partners that will help them or provide them the collateral or the opportunity to work with each other. So we have a community of practice, we meet monthly. The idea there is that the businesses can share best practice and tell each other what works and what doesn't work. Back to Dan.
Thanks, Mark. And so today we're going to keep this pretty informal because I think we are all on the same side here. We're not going to be promoting neurodiversity in business. We're just going to be talking about our kind of drivers and what we're seeing in the marketplace. So this will be a kind of a conversation between Mark and myself, pretty informal. So I think maybe Mark, I'll throw it to you as a first kind of question. You've been around this ecosystem for a good number of years, and you've seen changes. Tell me about how you think 2022 is different from what came before.
So large companies tend to have really good practices and policies around inclusion. You were certainly supported in the workplace. Bullying was never tolerated. And whilst it wasn't the intention of large companies to exclude neurodivergence, unfortunately, society has done that already. Individuals have been challenged with their education opportunities, with dyslexia not being identified or dyscalculia. And as a result, individuals never had the opportunities that some of their peers have had. So when it comes to traditional interviews and traditional CVs, we're looking for experience. You haven't had those opportunities. So it's great to see some of the large companies now changing the interview approaches to skills. So they're looking at what you can do and what your abilities are, rather than what opportunities you may or may not have had in life. It's difficult for individuals to disclose that, though, to say I'm disabled, because most people that are neurodivergent don't consider themselves disabled. Or to say you want a different interview because that some way you feel might discriminate against you. So I think companies are a long way to go to make that opportunity really available to people, because it's distrust in the whole interview process. It's a very intimidating process, and if you get through that and get the job offered, then you've got to adapt to fit into the culture of a company. So most companies tend to want you to adapt the culture and the values of the company and personalize them in your way. But the concept of bringing yourself entirely to work is relatively new for lots of companies.
Yeah.
What about you, Dan? What do you think makes a good neurodivergent leader in your experience? Someone who is supporting the advancement of neurodivergency?
Yeah, and I think it's a really good question, and I'd also like to build on what you said a second ago. So I've seen a big sea change this year, really, in terms of corporates finally waking up to the point that actually neurodiversity is the new paradigm of diversity and inclusion, like you've just explained, Mark. And why I think this is a really uplifting message is, yes, we are many years away from building those neuro-inclusive workplaces. We're many years away from having the society that we want to, but I genuinely do believe that neurodiversity is now at the top table. So it's being considered along with the other important elements of diversity and inclusion. And I think, you know, perhaps the launch of neurodiversity in business and the success that we've seen so far, with 200 members having joined already, you know, more than 8,000 followers on LinkedIn, I think, is an indication of the fact that there is such demand out there from organizations to finally get this right. And if we look at the statistics of 15 to 20% of your workforce, it's just increasingly being recognized that it's a no-brainer. And the final thing I'd say, Mark, before I get to your question, is that what we're hearing from within neurodiversity in business from our membership is that HR functions in particular, I think, are trying to work with this maxim that if we get this right for our neurodivergent talent, we get this right for the entire workforce. And that's really empowering, because what we don't want is tokenistic neurodiversity at work hiring programs or change programs. We want all this to become BAU, don't we? And we're many years away from that, but we're absolutely on the journey, and we're absolutely have seen accelerated progress. So that gives me a lot of energy on this topic. And Mark, to briefly answer your question, I think it's a simple one. The answer is a simple question. The answer is simple, which is, I think it's understanding and acceptance. So what I mean by that is understanding of the breadth of the neurodiversity spectrum and how everyone is individual, and then acceptance, not the acceptance of the individual per se, but the acceptance of the fact that actually, if you do things right, you're going to realize more benefit as a business. And we have to come back to that commerciality. You know, we are neurodiversity in business here. So the commercial aspects are increasingly being recognized, that we're in a war for talent, aren't we, Mark? You know, we've probably not seen this fierceness of talent poaching and recruitment challenges in our many decades. So what this means now is that actually it's incredibly more expensive to hire a new person, train them up, let them get inducted and get them fully productive. We should be investing that amount in making sure our workforce is able, as you said, Mark, to bring their authentic self to work.
Yeah, I think one of the reports this year that HR, certainly CIPD, were looking at was how neurodivergent individuals tend to be more sticky. So if you start looking at the positive characteristics of individuals, so they tend to be more loyal. They tend to have they may have very special interests, which when applied can really take forward organizations in a large way. Cyber, IT, technologies, the interests are wide and varied. Mine happen to be IT. Others have approached both their compulsion as well as their special interest in different ways. That also most that neurodivergent tend to be problem solvers. They've been problem solvers since they crawled out of the crib, because they have had to adapt to a world that didn't understand how they thought. And when you think differently, it has not only the dimension that you come up with answers that others may not have seen. So that creative difference, the innovation that companies are now looking for, comes from the talent that thinks in different ways. For those that can build the cognitive diversity of a company is what's going to make those companies survive the next 10, 20 years.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, Mark. And we will have seen through our careers that the best project teams, the ones who are delivering the most innovative output and thinking, are the ones where actually you have that diversity of thought built into the team. And I would also just build on that by saying that it's a difficult thing for the unemployed or underemployed neurodivergent employee or potential employee to want to put themselves out there into the employment market, to want to go through ill-fitting recruitment processes, to face kind of unappreciative recruiters. That's fair. We accept that. But what I would say is I've seen a big uptick in people self-disclosing in the employment area in corporates. And that's led to a really positive snowball effect, because now that we're talking about this within our organisations more, and now that we've also got people right at the top tier of organisations, there are those role models. So I really love the key message that people listening to this speech or this discussion rather to take away is that actually change is happening right now. Genuinely, organisations are actively focused on this topic. So just because you've had a very difficult time previously, please don't feel that that is always going to be the case. There needs to be positivity, and please do engage.
Yeah, I mean, the companies that we're seeing that are making great progress have moved beyond that medical and legalistic approach. It's not about the reasonable adjustments and light and sound and smell and having safe space for when the occasional meltdown might occur, but it's also understanding that you create an individualistic plan, which, as you said before, it's certainly necessary for those at neurodivergent, but it's beneficial for all employees. You will end up creating something that works around their strengths. So what's the point of giving someone with dyscalculia a bunch of spreadsheets to fill out? It's not something they're naturally going to want to do. Yet their interests and their skills will see them excel in other areas. So a good manager will talk to those individuals, find out where those skills are, find out the areas to avoid as well, and will actually get 2-3 times the productivity out of the individual. And if they stick to this, oh, you're this shape, therefore I give you the standard solution, spending time from the first day people come into the company. And I've seen that with the managers I've had, the managers that they didn't know I was neurodivergent. I didn't know I was neurodivergent. The managers that worked best were the ones that supported me and said, okay, Mark, what works for you? They recognized when I got bored, which was very fast, and they recognized what I was good at. And so they put me into problems that I could solve. And I did fantastic things for the company that I worked for before. But when you've had the managers that want clones, they get clones, and they get everyone running at 20%. Well, if you want a company running at 20%, go ahead. I wouldn't join that company.
That's very true. And I think, again, another positive note that we could draw out is the fact that time and automation are on our side here. So what I mean by that is that the jobs that have the shortest lifespan over the next 30 years in terms of automation and robotics are those jobs which potentially the neurodivergent employee wasn't necessarily suitable for or enjoyed, etc. So the real power of that diversity of thought around the innovation, the creativity, those are not the kind of the straight line skills which are being taken out of the workforce because of what robotics and automation. So the future is brighter than the past, because both, as Mark said, the culture and the managerial approach is maturing, we believe, but also the jobs of the future are going to be the ones where neurodivergent people excel in. So that's a positive note, I think, to end on.
I mean, it varies by countries and by sector, but certainly if you look at where the talent gaps are and look at where neurodivergent individuals have generally been very successful, it's data analytics, it's cyber, it's that quality control, it's that attention to detail. Again, I'm not trying to suggest that any size of neurodivergency fits all those situations, but you as individuals on this audience, figure out what your skills and abilities are, and then look in your country, in your location, for where those gaps are. If you happen to be into IT and you want to pursue cyber careers, there is a dearth of individuals. They are paying big money now for relatively recently qualified cyber engineers, data engineers. So there's enough online training for most of that stuff. There's lots of companies out there and organizations supporting neurodivergent talent acquire those skills. So wherever you are, I would certainly suggest look at what the opportunities are near you and then find people near you to help get into those opportunities, because they're crying out for good talent.
That's great, Mark. And look, that's a really positive note to conclude on, which is the marketplace is shifting. The demand is there for these types of skills. And also, as you'll have seen with the success of neurodiversity in business, organisations are coming together to evangelise on this topic. So Mark and I are really positive about the future. We've really enjoyed talking to this conference today, and we'd really welcome any follow-up queries. You can approach us via the website or follow us on our LinkedIn page. And thank you for your attention today, and best of luck with the rest of the conference.
Thanks, everyone.